yeah, maybe we should kick this bad boy off. So thanks, Zoe and Yotam from Imagen, for joining us.
No worries.
Thank you for having us, Ollie.
Mate, it is absolute pleasure. So yeah, be great to get a little bit of an idea of what you scallywags do. I've just muted myself because you're on the cutting edge of quite an interesting shift in how we edit stuff. So maybe you can just give us an intro to who you are, what you're each doing at Imagen, and what your macro mission is.
Sure. So I'll start. So just to get a note, like I wonder if we can do some raising hands here or something, but I want to understand if like people here heard about us before. Ollie, do you know if like people heard about it, or is this the first time they ever heard about it?
So we've just got a chat here. Kyle Pass is all over it. Katrina wants to know how we pronounce.
Yeah, so that's a common question. We call it Imagen, yeah. And it comes from, and maybe this will be the first thing I'll tell about. So we started up the company in July 2020, which is almost like 2 years now. And it all started when Yoav, my partner, got married. It was actually 3 years ago. He had to wait for a very long time for his wedding photos to come back. And I guess you all know it from the other side, but as a customer, you just sit home, wait for 3 months, wondering why it takes so long. We were both studying at university, computer vision and deep learning, and said, listen, we actually have the tool to solve this problem and help photographers with this, tedious task. We started speaking out to photographers. We started with Yoav's, my partner's photographer, who was luckily very happy to cooperate and show us why it takes so long. And we realized that the biggest problem is that from one hand, you have a personal style that you don't want to give up on. It's very important for you to keep your personal brand, personal style. You worked many years to develop that. And on the other end, it takes a very long time to manually edit. You can also outsource your edits, but then it's very costly and it takes a long time, and you can't really rely on the results because it really depends on who edits your photos eventually. So then we said, okay, we know AI, we know deep learning. We know, like, we started to get to know the photography world. Let's try to combine them. So we built this technology that can actually take your edited photos from Lightroom catalogs, and it's only Lightroom by now. Eric, we're getting to Capture One soon. What you can do is basically take your photos, see what you've done with it, and learn how you specifically edit, and build what we call a profile that can actually edit like you. And then it all started. There's a long story, like going forward, but that's the origin story. About the name, so we thought about many names, and it took us a very long brainstorming to get to the name. Eventually, we thought about, like, we wanted to be visionary. Imagine things. Imagine this could actually be true, and also it combines like image and generation. So this is how we came up with Imagen. I know it's it raises a lot of questions about how to pronounce it.
When you say deep learning, I feel like a lot of people might have a question around how does deep learning someone's profile in practice differ from your garden variety preset. So how do you apply your knowledge of deep learning into advancing the idea of a preset and saving people time that way?
Okay, so maybe I'll just give a quick, very quick intro about what deep learning is. And basically, deep learning is the more technical words for AI. So it all started in the 60s of the previous century, and then people actually thought, listen, we can code things, we can actually write a code, but why don't we just write a more generic code that can learn from examples? So we show it example. We tell him, this is a photo of a cat. This is a photo of a dog. And if we show it enough examples, maybe this can actually identify which photo is a photo of a cat and which photo is a photo of a dog. And then very smart people thought about it in the 1960s, but unfortunately they had very low computing resources. So we had to wait for a very long time. It's called the AI winter. And then they had to wait until 2012. 2012, a couple of things, miraculous things happened. First, a company called NVIDIA came out with something called GPU. GPU was here a long time before, but only in 2012, people understood that they can actually use the same GPU that was used for computer games and for graphical processing. They realized they can actually use it for computing. So at a very low cost, they can use it for machine learning and for AI. The other thing is that Google actually invested a lot of human resources in tagging photos. So they took 12 million photos and actually tagged each one of them using a lot of people and released it to the world. So suddenly we had a data set of 12 million photos, which are tagged. They were tagged with like, what's inside a photo, the actual segmentation of the photo, which pixel belongs to each class, and also resources become much cheaper. And then it was the go sign for a new era in machine learning. And since 2012, it all started. So it's now 10 years. And really, we see amazing things, mainly around computer vision, handling with photos and everything around that. Also in natural language processing. I mean, the fact that we can speak to our phone today and it can actually understand us. So it means that it can understand, English in many different accents and many different other languages, and convert that into written text, and then search this text. This is amazing. No one thought it's possible like 10 years ago. So and also applications for medical. So many new applications. I can tell you that the academical world has changed completely with these new findings and new results. And things have become, computer have become in many places better than human. In terms of, if you show a human a set of 100 photos and ask them to identify what's in these photos, and you give the same data set to a computer, in many cases, a computer would be better identifying what's in the photos. So yeah, it's magical. And just one last sentence. It's really hard to interpret what the AI learns. So we know it gets to very accurate results, but we can't always tell based on what. So it will look on the photo, it will say, this is a cat or this is a dog with very high accuracy, but we can't really tell, we can't always tell how he differentiates between cat and a dog.
That's I'm really curious.
I just want to jump
intro.
in just really quickly. Yeah. That was a very technical answer from Yotam.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm sorry if it was too long and too techy.
No, it's good. But something Ollie mentioned in his question was also about kind of how deep learning differs from just your regular preset.
Okay, yeah.
For all the kind of photographers on here, that's a really kind of clear way to determine the difference between an AI profile and a preset, is that a preset is just one set of parameters that you then apply to, for example, your whole set of photos on Lightroom. But that, I'm sure everyone knows here, that still means that you've got to go through every single photo and change the white balance and change the exposure, especially for wedding photographers, when there are so many different lighting conditions and you're shooting from sunset to sunrise, or indoor, outdoor, or tungsten lighting and natural lighting. All these sorts of lighting conditions, one preset is never going to help you kind of edit the entire catalog and let you kind of sit back. You're going to have to change the white balance and exposure across all of them. So what the difference is with an AI profile is it's actually learning all the different lighting conditions that you've shot in, and all the different editing parameters that you've done across a whole gallery. So you have to upload a minimum of 5,000 photos to create your own profile. Obviously, the more the merrier. So if you have more than 5,000 photos, go for it. And it's learning, the AI is literally learning from every single photo. So once you then get your profile and then you apply it onto, for example, a wedding gallery, you will literally open up your Lightroom catalog and start seeing your photos being edited with your own style. And that's the magical thing, I think, about when you first use Imagen, is kind of seeing these dark photos and light photos, and maybe even overexposed and underexposed, hopefully not, but you know, you're going to have that in a wedding, and you start seeing it kind of edited in your style. And yes, you're going to want to go in and sometimes do like a few more tweaks, and maybe there was a really purple dance floor that maybe the AI didn't learn from. You're going to have to go in and do some more tweaking. But I think that's the core difference between a preset and the profile, is that it's learning from about 50 parameters in Lightroom and applying that to all your photos, rather than applying just one set of parameters.
So to put
I think that's what I was, you go, Ollie.
There you go.
What I was going to jump in before about was exactly kind of what you've started to talk about there, Zoe, which is the thing from an outsider, naive kind of perspective. It amazes me that what we're talking about here is a computer making decisions that we make subjectively as we're editing, and the idea that it is recognizing in certain lighting conditions, this is what you usually do. And in other lighting conditions, this is what you would do. And when you've made a mistake by, like you say, overexposing 1, 2, 3 stops, or underexposing 1, 2, 3 stops, this is what you would do. As an idea, that is like mind-blowing. Obviously, we know this technology is around, and Yotam talking about even my son, who's 7, talking to Siri and getting her to Google things. It's amazing, just as he's just kind of mumbling what can be recognized. So on one hand is not that amazing with what the technology that we have around is, but my goodness, like, I guess a really simple question is it good at this point in time in doing that? And in how it exists today, this may be a silly question, but is it finished? Like, is it kind of job done, or what is the future of it getting better and better and better?
So in terms of job done, so Yotam can maybe speak to this a little bit more because this is about their approach when they started. But one thing that they always, the 3 founders wanted to ensure when they kind of started doing anything with photographers or any kind of software for photographers, is that they always wanted photographers to retain some sort of control with the final edit, because we like, I'm a photographer as well, and I think we want to still be able to have some control with our final output, because otherwise we don't want to give it all up to computers, right? We want to still feel like we're artists and we're putting our style onto something. So yes, we're going to always be evolving the software to make it, as perfect as possible. But I think we're always going to ensure that a photographer will have that control over the final output. They'll be able to go in and review the changes that the software has done. They'll be able to export it themselves. So yeah, Yotam can speak to this more about, potential things that we're going to be evolving with the software, but there will always be time for the photographer at the end to still feel like they're, adding their kind of artistry element to it, and they still have that control over the final output.
From a layman perspective, like if you're looking at going, okay, all of those 50 parameters or so, from a layman perspective, can Imagen delineate between bright outdoor coverage and then moody indoor stuff and go, that's moody indoor. I know how this photographer treats that. So I'm going to treat shadows, blacks and whites differently. Is the answer yes to that? Because that for me is the most interesting thing about AI, going, oh, I'm going to treat these moody shots differently because I've detected that the frame has 90% shadows. So this is how the photographer treats it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, actually the AI, because, and this is one of the reasons it happens on the cloud, because it requires a lot of resources that cannot run on your local computer. So it's a big, think of it like a big network that can understand and have the capacity to handle many different scenarios. So, and that's one of the reasons we need 5,000 photos. The AI needs to understand how to handle each different scenario and how you would handle each different scenario. And people ask us, okay, so it will just find like the most similar photo and edit like that. So the answer for that is no. It will actually understand how you edit each different scenario. And if it will edit one photo, you cannot find another photo it will edit exactly the same. It will just look at a photo and understand how you would edit this photo based on lighting conditions, based on different characteristics of the photo. And yeah, the answer to that is yes. I want to go back for a second for what Zoe said. So it is really, really important for us. And that was one of our first findings, that the photographer will stay in full control over the editing. And that's the reason we keep working with Lightroom. We don't just export the photos as JPEGs. We keep working with Lightroom. And one last step that happens on Lightroom is that you finalize and edit the edits that we provide, and then you send it back to us. So the profile keeps improving and getting better and better and getting more accurate and saving you more time as you use the software more.
Mm-hmm. I just want to add here as well on the learning side of things, Ollie, your question about does it learn about when you're editing kind of a more shadowy area compared to a lighter area? It absolutely does. But if you have a completely different style that you want to share, that's a moodier style, and then you have kind of more light, airy style, so you have two totally different presets that you use, you can set up two different profiles. So once you've subscribed, when you sign up, you can only create one profile, but then when you subscribe, you can create, I think, an unlimited amount of profiles. So you can also create a black and white profile. And you can create different styles as well. And then I'm sure we'll talk about this in more detail, but we also have already made photographer talent profiles that you can use instantly on your photos as well.
Yes.
Amazing. A quick comment from me, and then I've got a question for you actually, Ollie. One thing that pops into my mind with this is that sometimes when we're doing an edit and we're editing 1,000 photos, sometimes we can go down the rabbit hole and spend half an hour on one photograph. And then sometimes you'll encounter a photograph and go, oh, I know what I could do with this, but for the sake of time, I can't. I see a real advantage with this where you can be elevating the standard of your work and polishing to an insane degree, and then popping that into your system. And it's doing these instantaneous adjustments to a higher level than you would usually achieve yourself. So that's an incredible thing. Ollie, I know that you've been using this for some time. To put you on the spot in front of everyone, how's your experience with it?
I dipped back into it. One thing I will say is that I found, as I've filled it with more things and like updated and iterated, because it's something I've been super conscious to do with the shoots I've been putting through Imagen, is going back through every image individually and making any tweaks that occur to me in the moment, so that it's like increasing the intelligence in that profile. And for me, that's had a huge impact on how the images are changing. Like if there's an elbow poking out of the corner of a frame, it's like cropping that elbow out. And that stuff like that to me just like blows my mind, especially knowing that with software like this, you're going to come in with like super high standards going, oh, it should do everything. And something that's been important to me is to go, like, this is the very start of this, and it's going to get crazy, crazy good. I can only imagine, I don't want to speak for them, but I can only imagine that there'll eventually be like more like aspect ratio, cropping things that are going to come in future. So to know that we're right at the start is pretty wild. But from a point of view of putting through an entire wedding through it, I will say that it's nailed exposure, white balance, far, far better than I do as a human. And that for me is the biggest time sink of editing. It's just nailing, like correcting exposure and white balance. So to get a shoot back of like 800 images within 20 minutes of uploading it with all of that nailed better than I could is like totally wild to me.
And what about those lighting conditions, Ollie? Like as someone who does low key, high key, light and airy, dark and moody, what's it doing with your images currently when you pop those images through?
I'm now spending more time tweaking because they're, from an output point of view, they're the ones that I'm making the most adjustments to, like even with my own editing, like they're drastically different files, like the shadow and the black slider are doing totally different things. But if I was to say, you know, a few years ago, outsourcing to a third-party human editor, what I got back from that versus what I get back from Imagen, I'm like, I could send this straight to the client. Like they're acceptable, beautiful, nice images. Are the mood images like exactly to my flavor from an artistic point of view? No, they require more work. Is deliverable? Totally yes. And that to me is totally crazy.
Amazing. Love it.
Eric, your point as well about the perspective you have about when you use it, you're going to be able to enjoy those kind of more nuanced edits like more, is definitely like some feedback we've had from photographers. I'm a photographer as well, and that's, you know, when I'm editing like a big gallery, you even when you're doing it at nighttime compared to daytime, when you're looking at your gallery, sometimes the colors can shift a little bit as well. I don't know if you find that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's amazing that, you know, you get an email being like, your edits are ready. And then you get fresh eyes just to you can either go to, maybe your edits were ready at nighttime and you just go to bed and you wake up with, you know, morning eyes and you're ready to go, or you can just, you know, have a look and your edit, the base edit is done, so you don't have to do all that tweaking that takes that's the kind of stuff that really takes a long time. Then you can just go in and just actually enjoy editing more. So something that we've had feedback as well is that they actually are really enjoying the editing process again. Even if it gets them 95% of the way, they still have that 5% of enjoyment of going through and being like, wow, like this is my editing style that they still learn from me. Like, even though it's a robot, which sometimes I think people can be a bit scared by, for me, when I first used it, the impression I got when my first thought was, wow, like my edit is quite good, which I've never thought before when I'm editing myself, because I literally just saw my edit come up. Like it's still your work, it's still learning from you. So I think that's what's amazing about it. And then you get to like spend that time doing the more kind of nuanced edits yourself.
Because like Ollie said as well, like I think sometimes what burns a lot of our time is the most fundamental adjustments, like matching white balance, like at a wedding reception, for example, with less than ideal lighting, you know, green hues, the whole thing, and matching between different angles. It's those really simple adjustments that can just take up so much time. And yeah, you could go and have a cup of tea and come back and your eyes have adjusted and see it totally differently. So those things can be a real time suck. So even if it only did those things, which it sounds like from Ollie's feedback, it already is fantastic. And then to be continuing for it to be refining your profile and for the technology to continue to be improved is, yeah, this is amazing stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So just going back to, I spoke about it very briefly, but didn't go into too much detail, but we have talent AI profiles. So those are already created profiles with more than 5,000 photos from photographers. So I think the minimum maybe it's 15,000 photos that we've created these photographer profiles with. So people who don't necessarily have 5,000 photos to start with, or they are just really struggling with consistency, or they just want to try out a new style, they can try out these talent profiles instantly. And actually one of the profiles called Clean and Crisp, which is by a photographer called Susan Stripling, based in the US. that profile is very much just clean and crisp. And actually you could use that profile just as a base edit. So if you're just looking for, that white balance, that exposure, and maybe just, slight warmth, you can use that profile and then add your style on top, or, start evolving your style with that. But if you want just that, that base edit, just white balance and exposure, you can straight away instantly use that with one of our talent profiles. And that one is probably the most kind of low key one. The rest of them do have like a actual proper style to it. But that one, like you're saying, if you just want your entire gallery just like perfected in terms of white balance and exposure, you can just apply that one instantly and it's done.
Amazing. Yeah, and I guess, so let's say that you are, you're starting from the very beginning and it's learning your profile and things. I guess, like take Ollie's work, for example, where he and I consider myself to have the same approach, and a lot of other people do, as wedding photographers, we're in a whole lot of different lighting situations and obviously aren't always dark and moody or always light and airy. So if your profile is pumping in all of these really varied locations, and some wedding photographers might always shoot on mountaintops in New Zealand, for example, they've got a consistent location. There's also plenty of us that shoot in completely different locations, different lighting scenarios, and all that kind of thing, where the profile would have to be very, very good at deciphering where to steer your images in certain locations and lighting it, etc. We've kind of already covered this in some ways, but maybe not in others, in terms of how effective it is in steering your profile in those different directions throughout one set of images. Does anyone want to tackle that?
Yeah, so I'll take that. So I think that once the AI has seen enough consistently edited examples, it will know how to steer the way. So if you always edit this mountaintop in New Zealand the same way, and you always edit the dark and moody photos the same way, and then the AI can actually differ between them and understand which edit fits which photo. With that said, if you feel like you actually have two different editing styles and you would actually edit each kind of photo differently, it is better to build two profiles. So I think the guideline is, if you have two different editing styles, then build two profiles. If you want the entire album to look consistent and you feel like the editing style is the same, but really depends on lighting conditions and things like that, then it's better to just have one profile and apply that profile to everything.
Can I jump in to clarify something here? Because this would be something confusing to me, and I think I know the answer, but I just want you to talk about it. So when you're uploading a job through Imagen, if you have like used 5 stars to mark your moody shots and 1 star to mark everything else, you can, the great thing about the Imagen interface, correct me if I'm wrong, is that when you're uploading that Lightroom catalog, you can tick the moody images by separating 5-star, or you can tick the 1-star ones. So you can really quickly just apply either of those two profiles to the one catalog in 2 separate quick bursts. Is that right?
Right. So if you have a couple of profiles, then you can easily just, as you mentioned, like 5-star the moody photos and use one profile for them. You can do that also with coloring labels, or with a flag, or any kind of a way you want to mark these photos with, and just send these photos for a specific profile, and then use the other profile for the other photos.
I want to put you on the spot there here then. This has just come to me as like an interface. In future, will you have it so that a user, when they're uploading a catalog, they can have a drop down next to 5-star or green or whatever flag they've picked, and go put this profile on it and put that profile on the green ones, so they can have one catalog processed by 2 profiles at once? Is that something that you think might appear in the future? So to save uploading twice with 2 profiles?
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. We can look into that. What I can say is that most photographers, they only have one style. So one profile that fits everything. They just upload all the photos together with all the edits, and the AI can actually understand different scenarios. But yeah, for multiple profile, this is definitely possible, that someone can actually say like 5 stars photos are edited with one profile, and 4-star photos are edited with a different profile. yeah, this could be interesting
Particularly
feature.
black and whites, if they've got like a separate profile for the black and whites, one hit they can just get the whole thing processed. That's pretty incredible. I would love you to just quickly talk about, like, so many photographers have, it's only a few decades ago that photographers didn't edit their own work. It was a really separate job, particularly when you talk about darkrooms and, darkroom printing. And I feel like now there's a lot of resistance to letting go of culling or editing, and photographers really feel close to that. What are things that you can talk about as far as making photographers feel safe in letting go of that editing process to the robots? Because you would be aware of a lot of people's resistances now. How have you found people have started to feel safe about that?
I think the fact that we are leaving the control in the hands of the photographer is part of that. Like, we never want to get to a place where we just give the finalized photos. We always just give a suggestion of how we think you would edit this photo, and then you can go ahead from there. And we realize that it will never be 100% accurate. And even if it will get close, then styles change, your style changes over time. So you want to be able to control that. Also about Eric's comment before about, leaving time for the creative stuff. So we just do the heavy lifting, the work that is, more tedious and takes a lot of time, but it's not really creative. And we just leave you the creative stuff, which is much more enjoyable, much more fun to do. So, you're just letting off a part which is not, the artistic part, not the creative part. You're not actually giving the robots, full control.
Yep, love it. I would love to, if anyone, we've got 28 folks in the room. If anyone has a question, please feel free to raise your hand or pop it in the chat. And
Ollie, can you see them? Because there have been a few questions. I can start asking them.
I'm also giving robots full control, FYI. Love
it. So we've got from Spencer, is there scope for photographers to end up selling their Imagen AI profile the same as they sell presets now?
So we are thinking about, today we have our talents. We have about 10 profiles of talents, which we, personally reached out to, or they reached out to us, and we built a very careful profile together. We are thinking in the future to allow a less moderated marketplace. So anyone could actually build quality profile. I guess we will still have some quality assurance process to check it, to make sure it's generic enough, to make sure it's consistent enough. And then anyone can actually sell their profile to other photographers and create another revenue channel out of that. So that's a really good idea, and we're also thinking about it, and we definitely see that coming up in the next year.
This is making me laugh. Someone's asked, what the fuck is white balance? And then someone's actually explained it. I think he was joking. We don't need to answer that one.
A quick question about Lightroom editing. Sorry to jump in there, Zoe.
Yeah,
I apologize. In terms of what it's actually adjusting in Lightroom, really just a simple question. Does it do the local adjustments, like brushing, exposure, brightening faces, and all those kind of local adjustments, or is it just doing the broad strokes?
So not yet, but we are planning to have local adjustments in a couple of months.
Right.
Yeah, we also do, at the moment, we also do offer cropping and straightening. So that's an added 1 American cents, I think, for cropping and straightening. But yeah, we've had great reviews about, especially the straightening tool. People are super happy with straightening. I think cropping is a little bit more subjective. So, like, some people shoot something with the knowledge exactly how they're going to crop it in post, which obviously the AI does not know. But yeah, we do offer cropping and straightening as well. So, okay. Could you use Ollie's idea to make 5-star black and whites and 4-star with color?
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And I think Ollie just came up with that 1 second afterwards.
Yeah, you would use
Does
colors like 6 or 7, red and green or whatever, I suppose.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does Lightroom support keywords?
Oh, that was my thing, and that was just kicking the can around this rating idea. Was I literally don't even know if Lightroom supports keywords, because in Capture One it does, but also things like Bridge, where rather than using a color or star rating, you could literally be typing in words going profile number 1, profile number 2, or dark and moody, light and airy, associating to the metadata, just like star and color rating. So you could, be using actual words as opposed to stars, just for the sake of throwing that idea around.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll have to check. We'll have to check it out. I mean, today, it's quite easy to just pick a catalog, select a profile, and then apply it only for the 5 stars with one profile, and then do that again. I mean, before even like sending anything, do that again with the black and white profile just for the 4 stars. So you can do that today. It's not completely automatic in terms of we actually identify the 5 stars and send it for the color, and identify the 4 stars and send it to the black and white profile. So we'll have to think about it and think if it makes it more easier to just automatically apply each profile for each type of photos.
So Katrina kind of asked a question that's almost sort of touches on that. It'd be amazing to get a visual preview of the different profiles in the interface. Do you have any plans for anything along that, so we can like pre-visualize profiles, or is that there already?
It's not there already, but we are thinking about it too. And I must say, you have really good suggestions. I mean, everything we are speaking about and we are planning for the next couple of months. So yeah, I definitely think this is something we'll have in a couple of months. I'm not sure yet how will it look like. Maybe it will be on the website, maybe it will be on the software. But yeah, I think it's really important to actually see the talent results on your photos and not like on generic photos.
And it's probably a good place to know now that you give people 500 free images anyway, and if they use our code Strange Atlas, they get 1,500 free edits anyway. Either way, people can get at least 500 edits to try a talent profile out on anyway, correct? So they could upload a shoot of say 100 or 50 test images with a talent profile anyway, and use part of that block of 500 free shots. Is that right?
Exactly. So they get 1,000 free edits.
1,000.
If they use the edit, they get 1,500 free edits, and yeah, they can just try out all the different talents. They can build a profile and try that profile. So just use the trial, to check out which style you like. And we think that eventually building your own profile is the most time-consuming and valuable thing, because it will actually match your style the best. But if you don't have 5,000 photos to start with, you can start with the talents and then go afterwards and create your own profile.
Which is, and that's a good segue into what Jenna asked. Ollie, did you upload 5,000 images? Yes, I did, because I think I was forced to, so it made me find that. I think I had a couple of Lightroom catalogs with years of shoots. So what I did was I separated a few of those, weddings with 800 or 900 images. There was some dramas because some years I used an Adobe color profile, other years I used a different, a different color profile. So that created some conflicts. So the ideal scenario is to use images where you have the same color profile for all of them. But regardless, I've still got to a place now where I'm super happy with my edits, which I think speaks a lot to Imagen's ability to progressively mush them together as you update your tweaks.
I'm wondering if this is a joke question. Anything in the works for AI to shoot the photos as well? Is that a joke question? I don't know. No.
No, not at the moment.
We're not going to be taking over your job of taking photos.
Is there a way, I wonder if there's any
just wrote, please, I'm tired.
aside from the images, what am I trying to ask here? Is there ways to manually alter your profile aside from just spitting in images, I wonder? Or is that something that's been considered in terms of maybe your profile has started to go in the wrong direction for some reason because your most recent edit was a particular unique edit, and you might almost want to undo some adjustments that have been made to your profile, or almost adjust little sliders that I want it overall to be a little bit more saturated or a little bit darker, or whatever it might be?
So that's a very good question, and I must say it's still under research. So, you know, we've only been creating profiles for the last year and a half. So I think the editing style of people has not changed enough in order to actually branch out, you know, and create a completely different style. So we keep looking at that question and thinking, what's the point in time you should actually, you know, lose your old profile and create a new one based on your recent edits? And there isn't a clear cut. I mean, you cannot say like at this point in time my style has changed enough. For now, we can say that if you feel that like the results are not as good and accurate as you expect them to be, or as you used to get, then it is better to try and send more final edits to get the profile better. And if that doesn't work, we can actually create a new profile. So there's no way today to understand when it's a good time to actually, you know, build a new profile and completely lose your old one.
So we have a few more good questions on here. Do I need to create 2 different profiles for color and black and white?
Yeah, so that's we don't want to actually pick the ones that you want to be color and the ones that you want to be black and white. We think this is more of an artistic choice. So you have to actually select the ones you want us to edit with color profile and the ones you want us to edit with black and white profile. And yeah, you can definitely create 2 profiles. You will have to have 5,000 black and white edit photos, which is in most cases it's harder to find because you have less black and white photos in each projects you make. And we also have 1 black and white talent profile. So you can also try that one.
And with that said, I mean, there's faster I think there are faster ways to accumulate that. So if you're someone that's like used all of your weddings in one Lightroom catalog, then that becomes easy to filter your black and white. So you go into library module and you have to manually add a library filter, which lets you filter all the black and white images, and it's remarkably quick. If you're like me and you're starting to separate all your shoots into their own catalogs, you can actually have one catalog eat a whole lot of catalogs. So I think fairly quickly you could drag and drop a few years of catalogs into one, set your filter to black and white, and then suddenly I think you'd get to 5,000 black and white shots pretty quickly if you dragged in, you know, just did that exercise, which may take a couple of hours, but it would let you get to that 5,000 fairly quick, I think. So we have another question. Any chance, so this is from Kyle, any chance of an option to pay for each edit as they're done rather than banking them all up and paying at the end of the month?
So we don't have that option as of today. I would love if you like say what's the advantage for it in it for you. Like, why would you prefer like paying for each edit? Because we are thinking about like changing the pricing models, about how we charge, things like that. So I would love to hear like what the advantage for you about
I
that.
can probably speak for Kyle there because I think I'm probably in the same boat. Like when I upload a shoot, I would love the option to pay for it there and then, because then there's no surprise if I'm like randomly uploading 10 or 15 a month or something. I'm assuming that's why, oh, here we go. Kyle said, I forgot how much I'd edited last month and then had a surprise. So yeah, maybe just so people can just sort it there and then might be that case there. What other questions? So from Jenna, we have about 15 minutes left of Yotam and Zoe's time. So we just have a few more questions here. Does the AI get upset if you create sneak peeks for a client first and then put it through the whole gallery?
So I can testify for the AI. I know him personally. He's very nice, never gets upset, and you can definitely do that.
I'm thinking of HAL 9000 from Space Odyssey. Hey, Ollie, what kind of, in terms of just talking specifically in Australian dollars, like what does a typical edit cost you in terms of bucks?
How can we talk about it? Off the top of my head, I don't know. I think it's like around $50 or something, which to me is insane to get it back in 20 minutes and have it shave off, you know, a full day and a half of time that I'd otherwise have to spend on it. So I think it's around about that. There's like a per image price of like around 7 cents or something. Is that right, Yotam and Zoe? Have I got that right?
Yeah, so pricing is a bit complicated. We are also working on simplifying that, but it starts with 6 cents per photo for your first 1,000 photos each month. It goes down to 5 cents per photo for the next 4,000 photos. And once you go above 5,000, then it gets to 4 cents per photo. So it's easy to think if you're editing 1,000 photos per project, and then it's $60 for the first wedding, like $50 for the next 4 weddings, and then $40 for each weddings going forward.
And to put it in terms that are easy as well for people to consume, Kyle just said I had 11 shoot edits done for around $600. To give you an idea, you know, when I pay human editors, it's around about $500 per wedding, and I'm super stoked with that result. But to get like 10 shoots done for that same price is just crazy talk.
Big time. So good.
So do we have any more questions while we have these scallywags for another final 11 minutes? Or Zoe and Yotam, do you have any otherwise parting wisdom that you could share?
Can I just jump in with a quick question, Ollie?
Hello, mate.
Hi. I am super stoked with this product. Good work, guys. It's saved my sanity as well as at least halved my time. So thank you. For me, I've sent off a couple of pretty tricky lighting situation edits, and it's definitely done probably better than I could do, and from using editors in the past, which is great. There's just I guess I'm just wondering like how the AI can actually, like how well it can actually pick up, or how it in fact does pick up things like if say a subject's really backlit. Like for the first couple that I sent off, it was doing a really good job at trying to keep I guess a good exposure overall, but obviously for what I'm wanting, it's I want the subject to be effectively overexposed, so you know that they're properly exposed and blowing out the background and stuff. And while that's not technically like I guess for a robot to consider that that's a good way to edit, but like can AI pick out the fact that there's a subject, or that the subject's taking up a particular amount of the space in that frame, and then how does it actually work, I guess is what I'm saying. So will it ever be able to get to a point where it can figure that out?
So the answer for that is that once it's seen enough examples of like anything, it can understand that, and it can find the right edit. The problem that with many like more maybe artistic kind of editing, you sometimes don't have enough examples. And with the data set of 5,000 photos, you only show it, you know, a very little portion of that is this kind of edits. So I think that for the more artistic editing, if that's what you're asking about, so it will take time until the AI can actually understand and identify the photos that needs to be edited, you know, more artistically, and then apply this edit to. we've seen profiles built with hundreds of thousands of photos that already get that and can actually understand which photos need to be edited in a very unique style and identify these photos and edit them with this very unique style. But it takes a big amount of photos to get to that.
Something that I really get out of just your comments about all this, Yotam, today is like, I guess when we think about AI, we think of science fiction and HAL 9000 from Space Odyssey and this computer brain that is making human decisions. But what I really get from you is that really it is a computer is looking for an image's closest companion in your previous edits and then copying and pasting to make it look similar, which isn't so crazy, or it changes the way you think about AI, perhaps, that it really is just you providing examples of as many images as possible. And then the machine learning is, oh, this image is like that image, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to make those adjustments. Makes it a bit simpler to get your head around, I suppose, the way you explain it like that.
Mm-hmm. So I think this is not the case. I mean, it will not find a photo which is similar and just apply the same edits, because each photo is different. And as many photos as we upload, we will never like have the same photo again. So it will simply understand, and based on the photo it's seen, it will try to find the right style. But you can never, and you can run like hundreds of thousands of photos, and you'll never get the exact same set of parameters. Zoe mentioned we have about 50 parameters that we edit in Lightroom today. You will never, I mean, once in a million years, you'll get like 2 photos which have the exactly same set of parameters. Because, you know, 50 parameters, you have so much space to change each parameter. So it's not just applying the most similar photo again on the same photo. It's actually finding the right edit for each photo.
Sure. Yeah, I might have perhaps oversimplified my point, which is, I guess, adding more and more points of reference for the machine, I suppose.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally
that's definitely, that's definitely, yeah. And I mean, every like AI is based on data, and the more accurate the data is, the more accurate the profile would be. And that's true for any like AI application.
Sure. Yotam, we've had a few questions just at the end of a few people asking about how the fine-tuning process works.
Mm-hmm. So about the fine-tune, once you finalized your edits, you go to fine-tune and you upload the final edits. Because we already have the photos from when you send them to be edited, the uploading process is really quick. We just upload the finalized editing parameters, and then we build on our cloud. We have like the original photo that you sent originally for editing, and then the finalized editing. We keep collecting these, and the profile, and that's an important disclaimer, the profile will not get better with each new final edits you send, but rather just when we get to enough photos to make a significant change to the profile. And this point in time is usually when you get to the same number of photos you sent initially. So if you train the profile with 5,000 photos, once you send additional 5,000 photos, the profile would be fine-tuned and will become better. With that said, if you feel like your profile is not accurate enough, and if you feel like your profile needs, you know, a refresh, then just reach out to us. We can either, you know, accelerate the fine-tune process and make it before you get to the 5,000 additional photos, or we can actually, you know, investigate and see why the profile is not behaving as we expect it to be. So, you know, just talk to us and let us know.
And this is maybe an important part to sort of, just like also reiterate, you get out what you put in, and a huge part of like outsourcing anything, even to a human, like there's going to be an arc. It's going to be more unstable and challenging at the start. And like the more you kind of put into like iterate your profile or make sure you reach out to Imagen, you know, the faster it's going to get to a place where it's satisfactory. But to not expect it's going to be nailed right away.
Yeah, I just wanted to also introduce Sam, who's come into the group. She's recently joined us, and she's from Australia. So if you ever have webinars or anything that's at a crazy time that me and Yotam can't join, then she can join that. So Sam, you can come and just say hi. If she's coming on video. There we go.
Hi everyone.
Hey, Sam. Hey.
Hi. Nice to meet you all. I didn't even know this is happening, so this is absolutely awesome.
Should have reminded you.
No. So yes, I'm based in Brisbane. So if anyone has any questions, I'm on Brisbane time. So you can actually message me at any time or call me. I'm always available.
Amazing.
That's
Thanks, Sam.
awesome. Hey, I think we've got Rick with a question. How you doing, Rick?
Hey, legends. Yep, doing very well. Just wanted to make a minor feature request just to streamline the process of uploading and edit. When you have to upload the photos into Imagen AI, and then it lets you know, okay, we're ready to send. And then you have to click send, and then at the end of that, it says, do you want to open Lightroom? And you have to click that. So you kind of have to hang around for those two options. Is there I feel like it'd be very easy to have a default, you know, save this feature to just, after you click send, definitely send it off to Imagen AI after the files have been uploaded, and then open Lightroom at the end of that. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that's a really cool idea. I'm just thinking technically whether it's possible, because yeah, we have to figure that out technically. I just want to say that in a month, I mean, it's planned for like 3 weeks, but I guess in a month, we'll have a fairly new version, which is completely different. Like everything was built from scratch. And yeah, I think this feature would be possible with this version. So that's a really cool idea. And basically, just to make sure that I understand, you're saying that today you sent for editing, the downloads are ready, you go, you click download edits, the edits are applied, and then you have to do another click of opening Lightroom catalog. So you say, why not doing that with one step?
Yeah, there's 3 clicks basically, because there's the upload, and then it has to finish uploading before you have to then click send, which seems gratuitous. Like, of course I want to send it, I've just uploaded it. And so that's just me clicking a button. So it feels like that's something that could be automatic. At no stage do I ever want to upload and not send. And then finally, the open Lightroom catalog. Yeah, I mean, that will only save a couple of seconds, but yeah, if that was all done so that after I'm ready to upload it, press that button, and the next time I come back to my computer, the catalog's open, ready to review.
Yeah, sounds really good.
Awesome. Hey, a question, I guess, in terms, I guess it's a nice kind of concluding question, I suppose. But Yotam, in terms of like, imagine in like 5 years time, I guess you don't want to give away your roadmap too much, but I mean, this right now, what you're doing now is so exciting, but there must be some really interesting discussions in terms of where this is going to go. You can see things like retouching, of course, in the shortest term, like you talked about with local adjustments, but there's just, yeah, like what are you most excited about in the years to come, I guess, with this?
So that's a very good question we keep asking ourselves all the time. We want to stick on to the professional photography business and to actually bring AI to each different section that is time consuming for you guys. I mean, we started up with editing because we think this is the most time consuming. We're also looking at culling. So actually helping with filtering the photos, you know, finding the right photos in the future. We want to make editing, you know, add local adjustments, add HDR, add more features to the editing. And eventually, if we're speaking about 5 years from now, so we want to think about each task that is time consuming. And eventually, and this is really, I mean, it's really amazing that most photographers are, you know, a one-man show or one-woman show. and you have to do so many things just in order for your business to go on, you know. And I think that AI and I think that technology can help with many of these tasks. So, you know, each time that you feel like you spend a lot of time on something that you don't love doing, I would love that if you can just reach out to us and let us know, listen, I have a task. It takes a lot of my time. I don't feel like it's creative. I don't feel like it's something I want to do. Please help. And basically, this is our planning for the next 5 years.
I have a few emails I can send your way to do for me.
Great, sounds good.
Amazing.
Amazing, guys.
There is no more questions. If anyone has something on their brain, speak now or forever hold your peace until you fire up.
We had one question, and where someone said, "Can you fine tune the photos from the talent profile you were working on?" And correct me if I'm wrong, Yotam, but I basically answered that you can't actually fine tune that, but you will just need to use the 5,000. Once you get to 5,000 photos after editing with that talent profile and making the tweaks, you can just create your own profile with those changes.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I think that's the last question.
There was
Ollie,
a comment about no, that's okay. You go.
No, go for it. We've got to jump on another call in a minute, but go for it.
No, of course. No, we're mindful of taking a lot of your time. No, there was just a comment about, you know, in terms of a lot of us are already using AI culling as such. There's probably two main contenders. And yeah, where I think the nature of these things is when we are starting to consume it, when we are paying money, our expectations instantly come from literally zero expectations on AI to, oh, now we're paying for it. We want it to be absolutely perfect. And so, yeah, the idea that that it could be a whole lot better than how it exists currently, undoubtedly. So that would be really exciting to have you guys dip your toes in that market for sure, which was, yeah, Kyle's comment down there. Over to you, Zoe. You were going to say something to kind of wrap up, I think.
No, yeah, and I mean, I can imagine also for photographers, it would be so nice to have everything in one software. They don't need to kind of be tiptoeing and going out of Lightroom, going into Lightroom and using kind of different things. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was just going to say thank you so much to Ollie for hosting this. So hopefully we'll do some more, because it seems like the questions can go on, you know, for another whole hour. So maybe we can get another one in the diary and get more people on board, seeing as this one has gone so successfully. So yeah, thanks so much. And if anyone has any questions, just please, like further questions that we haven't answered, just get in touch. Like the support team are, you know, available 24 hours a day. So yeah, thank you.
You are awesome. Thank you, Zoe and Yotam, for your time and
Thank you, guys.
your fabulous thing with us. So yeah, really appreciate it. And yes, let's do another one.
Amazing. All right, perfect. Thanks, guys.
Big love.
Bye. Have a great day.